Welcome, scholars, to the Reaction Replay Podcast. That's right. Try to do these whenever I can because they do take quite a bit of time when you're doing podcasts and I'm just talking about stuff. Today's topic is Bungie, Halo, and Destiny and how it all played a part with yours truly. Get your red Solo cups out, kids. So usually I would probably try to have like a outline of what I want to talk about, but since we're talking about me, myself, and I, and just the general connection with, Bungie, I think it would be okay for me to just go on top of my head, right? So, and it's a podcast, so we're gonna yap, right? We're gonna talk about the good times, we're gonna talk about the bad times, and then we're gonna talk about the future of both Destiny and Bungie, right? Now, I want to say that, ironically, my channel was never even based on anything Destiny related. For those that don't know, and you've never actually shopped around the channel and gone back in time, siphoned through, it actually was intended, my channel itself was intended to be like educational. It was actually supposed to be like a counseling. That's why Mr. Gaming Counselor came from. I even had a vote for the community. Like, hey, would you rather see Mr. Gaming Critic? Because I'm very critical. But people like the counselor aspect, and scholars kind of has a little ding to it, right? But personally, it wasn't until things started going downhill that I swapped over and I started talking about Destiny and Bungie, because Destiny has been a big part of my life. In fact, Bungie themselves has been a big part of my life. No, I'm not friends with Bungie or have any direct connection, but it's like, watching your favorite football team, as you grow up, you have your family, your friends, enjoying those moments. You have that kind of connection, right? So, in order to get like a basis of where I'm coming from, we have to kind of rewind time. It's rewind time. God, that was such a failure back in its day, the rewind from YouTube. Always good time to make fun of it, though. The memes, truly spicy. The Will Ferrell one. Wow. So just rewinding the clock, back. How about Halo, man? That was like before I was in middle school. The first time I ever played a Bungie game or even Halo, which it was Halo, by the way, was back when my parents were going through a divorce. Me and my sisters and my mom moved in with my grandparents. We got kicked out of the house. And I remember my big sister's boyfriend had an Xbox. And I remember him pulling out the Halo. And I remember him, we're playing co-op. And I guess my sister was watching him play. And I was like, hey, I want to play. Or that looks cool. He gave me a controller. And I remember seeing in the back of the Warthog, going through the second mission, Halo. We're hopping through the hills. We're jumping around past the river, watching these flying purple vehicles and these little blue and yellow and orange dudes shooting at us. And it was just a ball to play. Just running around. I've never played anything like this. Like, just to give you insight, I back in that time, I had a Game Boy was the most I ever had. I think it was truly something unique for me. It was the first time I played a first-person shooter. Sure, I mean, my grandpa had, Return to Castle Wolfenstein on the computer, and I do remember playing that, but I never really got into it until later after playing Halo that I went back to his house and played it on his computer, right? And then he also had this redneck game, I don't know what it was called, but it was going around in Doom style, going around shooting people and other rednecks. It's like Redneck Rampage or something like that. But during this time, when things were rough, right? We got kicked out of the house. Parents getting divorced. That was my first window into Halo, and I was like, man, I really want this game. Fast forward through the clock a little bit. Fast forward. My parents still divorced. Things happen. We got taken away from my mom and we moved with our dad. I'm trying to be very vague because let's be honest, you guys don't want a woe is me story. So I'm just trying to stick to the highlight points of like where Halo comes into play. But for like a year, I stayed at my dad's. Really didn't go outside for a year. Didn't really have any friends. I was kind of isolated. And that's when I got my first ever Xbox. And I got Halo 1, Halo 2, Return to Castle Wolfenstein. And those were the games that I played religiously. I played them every day. Like I played Halo so much that I knew I was doing, you know, if you look at Mint Blintz, he's a big Halo guy that does trick shots. I was doing shit like that way before he existed. Like before he became like popular on YouTube. I was doing trick shit and, you know, finding like the Halo Warthog flip by killing a bunch of, you know, Marines on the beach on the cartographer map, throwing a grenade and watching the Warthog fly. Like I found that out on my own because that's how much I played these two games. You know, Halo 2, we'll get more into the story of Halo 2 in a minute, but Halo 2 was also a big part. You know, I loved playing Legendary on Halo 2, kicked my ass, but I loved the challenge. And that was kind of like my life for about a year. You know, I did go to school, but didn't really have any friends. No one really talked about video games, so I was kind of always by myself. Again, skipping around, you know, skipping the boohoo stuff. Life was hard. Everyone has their troubles. But for me, this was like a big part of like, when I say that a part of me was saved because of Halo, it saved my, you know, I could have been just a kid in depression, and having Halo to be there to explore the world, to dive in, to escape, you know, a shitty reality, it was a lifesaver, right? So just, that was my real deep connection to Halo. Hey, I loved Halo. Halo is always going to be a part of my heart. That's why I'm also very passionate about that series not doing so hot. In general, like Halo will always be so much to me. You know, fast forward to, you know, the end of middle school, and I met my best friend. Which, funny enough, my best friend, who actually was a guy that used to pick on me. It was an older guy in high school, used to pick on me a little bit. But he was going through like a magazine one day, and I looked and I saw Halo Secrets. I was like, wait a minute, does that say Halo 2? And he's like, yeah, there's like some Easter eggs. I'm like, wait a minute, there's Easter eggs? And he like, we're on the bus, by the way. And he leans over, shows me, like from the other side, shows me like, I know where that's at. Holy shit, I know where that's at. It's like, really? You have Halo? Like, yeah, I got another controller. And like, he always stayed on the bus after I got dropped off. He's like, well, I live down the block from you. Like, it's about like about a mile and a half or something like that. But out in the countryside, you know, he's like, hey, and like, I live right down the street. Why don't you come over? Actually, I take that back. He came over to my house the first time, and then I started going over his house because my mom was just awful. So the first time he came over, we checked things out. You know, he came over, he brought his magazine, and we started going Easter egg hunting with the magazine. This is, by the way, this is before YouTube really popped off and before I started getting social media and all that jazz, right? The Game Informer, those were the OG, you know, how to find the secrets. Anyone who knows. And so we're going around, we're finding, you know, all the skulls, you know, some of them I remember the first, you know, time we got the Grunt B-Day and we started popping all these guys in the heads, and you get the, yay! You know, it was truly a great moment. You know, finding the, you know, in Halo 2 and Metropolis map, you're finding the energy sword in the, you know, up on the destroyed building corner, and it said Rex. You know, finding all that cool stuff, or finding the giant soccer ball. Oh my God. Me and my best friend spent hours hiding a Banshee on the stupid bridge, you know, into the tunnels, and got it perfectly. I don't know, like, thinking about it, I don't know how you were actually supposed to get these Easter eggs, like, legit, without cheesing a Banshee through the tunnels. Like, I did that. And by the way, I did this before YouTube was a thing. Just so we're all clear, did this before YouTube was a thing, and you could watch a guide. Literally, that's how dedicated I was to this game. Saw that there was Easter eggs, and I'm gonna find that. And so we literally did. We kited in on, was it normal mode? Kited the Banshee into the tunnels, all the way to the final tunnel where you have to time the checkpoint just right. Get up there. We got the Scarab gun. Oh my god, the Scarab gun, just going around destroying everything, and then knocking down the giant soccer ball that was on the map. Like, those are the moments at Bungie Games that really put a smile on your face. Just moments like that where there's Easter eggs and they're not afraid to make a game fun and enjoyable. A game where, you know, you can get all the bros and gals together. I did have one of my best friends as a girl, so she did play. You know, I remember doing LAN. That's right. Kids nowadays have no fucking idea what that means. I remember one of my other friends, I haven't spoken to them in many, many moons, but they used to be really close friends. They would all we remember renting out, like later in high school, renting out the community center in our town. And we would get a bunch of, you know, for a day or so, we would go and get everyone bring their TVs and their Xboxes. We'd link up, and then we'd play a bunch of video games. And of course, you gotta know Halo was involved. Those are moments that people will never experience. Like, especially in Bungie world, people like talk about how great gaming is, but they don't realize how good it was beforehand. Like, there's something special, something truly magical about getting a bunch of guys and girls in a room with a bunch of TVs and controllers, linking up onto the same game, fighting each other in custom games, you know, custom rules, you know, looking at each other, pointing at each other, drinking Mountain Dew, Doritos, having some pizza on the table, shooting the shit, trash talking each other. You know, it's something that people just don't experience anymore, and it's such a shame, because I feel like that was a highlight of my childhood, is having moments where you could hang out and have fun and enjoy having everyone together. You know, where video games wasn't just you're playing by yourself behind a screen. You're seeing other people, and there's other screens, or doing the classic where you're doing, you know, people don't know the struggle of what cheating used to be, when you did 4-screen split and you're over in the corner. You're like, hey, I see you looking at my screen, you bastard. And you're sitting there eyeing everyone around you like, you better not be looking at my screen. Like, that was the glory days of gaming, in my opinion. The pinnacle of gaming was when you were able to hang out with friends instead of having to buy 4 different consoles, 4 different copies of a game, you know, multiple controllers. You could have one, and you just got to sat down. The closest thing we get to that is, you know, the Switch, right? The Switch with party games, but every game was a party game. It wasn't about the greed. It was about the fun. It was about the memories you were making with people. And they just don't make them that anymore. They don't make them like that anymore. They just don't. You know, Halo has lost its soul because of 343, and Bungie has lost its soul. You know, fast forward, you know, I met my best friend because of Halo. It blossomed. We used to, you know, like I said, hang out at his house a lot, introducing new people. He'd make new friends, introduce them to Halo. I remember we had a guy named, I don't really remember what his actual name was, but the nickname he gave himself was Bacon. I don't know why, but this guy is so stupid. He's a crazy nut job. Like, he's just nuts. And his name was Bacon. We used to call him the Bacon Eater. And we would go, you know, we'd all go fighting each other, swords and shotguns in Halo. And like, I forgot what the Flood map was in Halo 2, but it was the Flood map. Going around, you know, shotgunning and swording each other. And he would just always be the most dramatic person, just losing his shit out of everything. And it was a good time. it was a good time, and it's moments like that that I will forever miss, because we'll never get that again. And I know people always like to make fun of like the old blood when you talk about Halo or anything old, Bungie. But people don't get it. Unless you've experienced it, you don't understand what you're missing. You don't understand the joy that other people have experienced. And they not only do they want to enjoy that again, but they want you to enjoy it. And that's the problem with modern gamers, is that they're so far up their own ass that they don't realize that people are trying to advocate for an experience that is just, a net positive, and they want them to enjoy it too. And that's what makes me the most frustrated, is modern gamers are some of the stupidest people I've ever met, because you could literally try to do everything in their best interest, and they'll find some way to make it seem like it's a bad thing. Like, modern Halo has no soul compared to classic. 343 doesn't understand what made Halo Halo. I mean, even Halo 3, there's never been anything to the level that Halo 3 has done to the franchise. I mean, you had advertisement everywhere from big time celebrities, Bill Gates, everything you could think of. There are still GameStops have shut down that still have the Halo 3, image on their windows. It's that iconic. And people don't understand that. They don't understand what they're missing. And we could be having that. Like, I'm not saying that everyone should have to stand out at a GameStop, but you can't sit there and be like, I would just want everything digital download. You're missing out on what may, when you're interacting with fellow gamers, you're having a better time than just interacting with people online. It's funner to interact with people at a GameStop than it is interacting with people on Twitter. And that's the big difference. I remember, and this is going off topic a little bit from like Halo and Bungie, but I never got to go to the midnight release for Halo 3, unfortunately. And we'll get to that. That was just a really sad part of my life. Oh man. But anyways, standing out at GameStop, I remember Black Ops 1. Oh man, Black Ops 1. I remember standing out there. They had the TV out. They had some military bros chilling out there in the Humvee. At pizza, Mountain Dew. I remember people shit talking the veterans as they 1v1 them, and like, my grandma could shoot or something like, you shoot. I hope you don't shoot terrorists like that. Like, it's those moments that you just don't get anymore. And sure, there's that desire for immediate gratification. Like, I want the game now. I don't want to wait to play it. I just want to immediately unlock it and play. But you don't realize you're cheating yourself. You're cheating yourself at some fun experiences. I remember getting free posters. Hell, I still have most of my free GameStop posters. I just need to put them up, somewhere in the house. But I have all those free posters and free giveaways and all the cool stuff that they used to do to get people hyped and excited. Just don't get that being stuck behind a screen waiting for a digital download. It's not the same. If there was like a local GameStop, I would probably go to a midnight release one more time for, one last hurrah, if they even do midnight releases anymore, or if they even make them as exciting as they used to. At this point, they might just be like, here, stand, take your thing, go. But man, people they're missing out on the glory days of gaming. And Halo was that part of my life, right? Halo 3 came out. My parents couldn't afford the games. It was essentially just thanks to my dad at that time that I was able to even lucky enough to get an Xbox. And so what I had was what I had. Like, sure, we got some cheap games. Like, I remember as was going through high school, as a freshman. We bought like Godzilla, Destroy All Monsters. Like, there were some cheap games, right? I got cheap games that I was able to buy. That was like a very specialty situation. Like, when I say that I understand what it means to not being able to afford games, I understand that. I understand what it means for them to jack up the prices of consoles. I understand that. you know, I know that's going a little off topic, but just we're talking about the podcast, right? I understand where people get frustrated, and I will always advocate for cheaper prices or for people not to be assholes, you know, thinking that anyone can just buy a game. And when we talk about shitty games, people don't want shitty games just because people can't afford to buy a shitty game. You try to take a game back unless you're buying on PC, which not everyone has PCs. But if you're on console, like, you have to hope that you can get a refund. Most probably not. Consoles like Xbox, PlayStation, they'll fight in tooth and nail sometimes to get a refund. You try to take it to Walmart, they won't let you return it. They'll only let you get something of the same. They'll essentially trade one copy of a game for the exact same, like, new copy. That's it. They won't actually let you sit there and... Depends. You might find a nice Walmart associate that might do that to you. But as someone that worked at electronics, just know that was not the case. Normally you don't get away with that. You're just kind of screwed once you buy it. And GameStop, well, you'll just get you'll lose money. You might get like out of $60 game. If you're lucky, you might get $40. So you're losing $20, which feels bad, especially if that was the $60 that you could use for the month for video games. So the whole idea that people want games to die, no, people want shitty games to die, and rightly so. So when they spend their only money they have available for the month, they could buy something that gets them excited, something that they can play for a long time, something that they can be happy with. Man, like, people don't you could tell who's privileged immediately in the gaming verse when they tell you to just get over it. It's not that big of a deal. Or they sit there and say people want, you know, games to die. These are people who come from privileged, you know, backgrounds, that their mama and daddy probably bought everything they ever wanted. You know, they probably have more money than what they can, you know, deal with. And those people really, their opinions don't matter, and they should learn to shut up. That's my honest opinion. And the truth is, as someone who knows and understands, you know, how expensive, if you live in a background where you are not getting a lot of income, you may not be able to afford games. And it wasn't until I got a job. I spent my entire paycheck after working at Walmart in high school. You know, my first paycheck, I bought an Xbox 360 with a copy of Halo 3. That's right. I bought the Xbox. I got a used copy of Halo 3. I bought an Xbox Live service card for, like, I don't know, I think 3 months. And then I had a little bit of money left over for, you know, gas to get me back and forth for the next month. Pissed off my mom. She absolutely was livid. She's like she'd already paid off the truck and she wanted me to pay her back. Fuck her. I don't care. You know, my first paycheck, I'm going to spend it with what I want to spend it on. So, you know, fuck her. I bought an Xbox 360 and that's how it went down. So that doesn't give you indication of where my relationship with my mother is. There you go. Fuck them. But I bought the Xbox 360 and I played Halo 3 religiously. When I know people say this all the time, and back then, before people wanted to be YouTubers, everyone wanted to be esports. That was the shit. Esports. Everyone wanted to, their goal and dream if you're a gamer was to be an esports person, to be a real gamer. And when I tell you, if there's ever a game in my entire life where I probably could have been at the level esports, it's Halo 3. Because I had no life. I had no life. All I played was Halo 3 religiously, ranking up high. I don't remember what my rank was, but I played that religiously. Now, if you ask me to play Halo 3, I suck dick. I suck. Well, okay, I won't say I completely suck. I'm very average. And that's what the thing is with most PvP games. I don't act like I'm good. Like, I'll have moments where I pop off and I will celebrate those moments. Like, hell yeah. That's like it's like looking back, like that moment. It's like a memory capsule. Like, oh, There it is. There's that gamer that I used to be. That's the Chad I used to be. The diehard PvPer. I still get angry, by the way. I'm a sore loser. I get so like, I'm a rager. Just so you know, I pissed off a lot of people online a lot. I'm absolutely a rager. I'm a sore loser. Even though I know that I lose because I'm average, I was very much back then, I was a sore loser, and let's just say that I'd never had a filter. And I would have been banned a long time ago if we were in modern times. If it was old me in modern times, I would have been banned like within a week with some of the shit I used to say. I've grown since then. I've grown, both in word choices and in how, who I am. But Halo 3, I played religiously, continue on the friendships that I had, hanging out, playing with my friends with Halo 3 as well. It was a great time. Then Halo Reach comes out, right? So I'm going through high school playing Halo 3. Halo Reach comes out as well. And ODST obviously came out, but like ODST is just kind of like a fun side project, right? I enjoyed it. I didn't have any problem with it. Halo Reach comes out. They're getting ready. They're at that point, I didn't really know that they were getting ready to jump ship to Destiny. I heard my other best friend who I moved in with was like, "Hey, they're leaving. They're gonna make Destiny." Like, what the hell's Destiny? And I remember finding the Easter egg in ODST where it says Destiny awaits. Yeah, that was like, okay. But I remember playing Halo Reach and playing Infected. Oh my god, SWAT and Infected were my two most favorite things to play in Halo Reach. I'm going to kind of out myself. I hated, with a passion, Halo Reach story. I loved its multiplayer. I hated the story. I thought it was ass, awful, trash. Now I really enjoy it. I don't know, like something about me just back then just hated Reach's story, but I actually really like it. I feel like it's a well-written story. I like that, maybe it's because I was a diehard Halo fan and I only wanted to see Master Chief. Only Master Chief. I don't want to see these shitty Spartans. Well, now I kind of appreciate it, and I kind of wish that they followed that route instead of continue to dig up the grave of Master Chief. I thought Halo 3 was a fantastic send-off, personally, as we speak. I like Halo 4, by the way. I know, I'm a weirdo. But Halo, Halo Reach was the last Bungie Halo. And at that time, I didn't realize how much soul it had, because it still has soul. It has a deeper meaning, or deeper story, very intense, very emotional, really kind of showed you the intensity of the Covenant and how humanity, like if you play Master Chief, you feel like a badass, invincible badass. Whereas when you're playing Reach, you get that different side of the story about where the world really is, like how threatening the Covenant really were, how destructive, and how much how far humanity was at the brink of being completely wiped out. Like, you got to see and experience everyone with their backs to the wall, which is not something Master Chief, has had some moments, but overall you felt like a badass a lot of the time. You're like, okay, he's gonna carry us. There's no one carrying you in Halo Reach. You just, even the final Lone Wolf mission, you just die. No matter how much you try, you die. And it's kind of like the whole point of the story is like, the Covenant were just an invincible killing machine, endless, and it felt like it would never stop. Like there was no way of winning in sight. So, that's me reflecting now. But back then, I didn't appreciate it as like a high school, college student. I think I was either just starting college or I was finishing high school. I can't remember specifics, but yeah, I think it had to have been before in between high school and college, because Destiny came out when I started my associates. So I was in like community college. Yeah, and I'm still staying at my friend's house while working at Walmart, right? And I remember playing I didn't play the alpha. I did play the beta for Destiny. I remember, you know, we played, what was it? Big Arms. I'm trying to remember what the playlist was. I'm so upset that I don't remember. I think it's Big Arms maps. You got to play in vehicles. They had turrets too. Like, I remember some of those maps were really freaking cool. It's just big game mode, lots of people. I'm still salty and upset that Bungie never brought that to Destiny 2. Is so frustrating. Like, why? Why couldn't you do it? It was so good. It was such a fun time. And imagine playing customs with your friends. Like, you get a shit ton of your friends and jump into a map. You're just all having an all-out war. Like, oh my God. It felt like they were pulling from Battlefield in that game mode. But you got to experience, you got to experience that fun. Crucible's fun. And I wasn't really for sure how I felt about the game because I played the beta. And then I bought the base game when it came out, and I thought, and this is funny, I thought you got later on, you got to customize your character. I thought I could have, the hood of the hunter, and then you could have the robes of like the warlock and actually look like a dark warlock. Like, that's what I thought we were going to be able to do. And then when I found out the customization was class specific, I was like, well, this is bullshit. Like, why it's a warlock. Warlocks have hoods. Like, what the fuck is this? So I was pissed off. I was stuck in hunter. I hated hunters. Like that. It wasn't until like later in the Taken King that I became a hunter main. But damn, I hate it. I remember it because when we talk about it, the Taken King, I was the runner for the blights, collecting the blights. I was the Taken blight, should I say? I was that guy going around getting all that stuff back in the day. I was also the guy that made us fail a lot too. We'll get to that in a minute. But Destiny 1, yeah, I played beta, played early. I'm gonna, it's funny. I remember two big events that happened. One was it's funny because both of these situations, I would not know later when I came back to Destiny 1 that this happened. But I stopped playing Destiny before the Vault of Glass raid was released. I got bored of it. I know that sounds crazy, but I got bored of it mostly because my friend stopped playing it, right? He stopped playing it. He took a break. He said he would come back for the raid. I didn't want to wait. I'm impatient. At this time, I'm ADD. I'm pretty sure I am ADD. And it explains back how my attention span was so over the place. I went to go play Call of Duty. In fact, if I'm remembering correctly, I want to say, if I can pull it up while I'm talking, I want to say that at this time, I was playing Call of Duty. Let's see. Call of Duty. And I want to say it was Advanced Warfare. Warfare release date. I'm double checking my computer. Came out in 2014. Okay, yes. So that's what it was. During this time, leading up to the Taken King, I was playing Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. Released in November. Let's see. When was the Taken King released? I'm doing research live on the podcast. Taken King release date. Let's see. Taken King release date was September 2000. So it was the following. It was the following year. So yes. So I took about a year off of Destiny 1, and I just played other games like mostly Call of Duty and Halo. Like I went back to Halo and Call of Duty, which I want to say at that time, when was Halo 4 released? I'm looking. Halo 4 release date was November 2012. When was Halo 5? I don't think it was Halo 5 that I was playing, but I'm pretty sure I was playing Halo 4 at this time. Yes, so at this time, I was playing Halo 4 religiously with Call of Duty. So I stopped playing I got tired of Destiny. I stopped playing because my friend stopped playing. So I went back to Halo 4 because I loved Halo 4. So I played Halo 4 religiously, moved Call of Duty. I think, what was it? Call of Duty 2? I think it was Black Ops 2. Sorry, Black Ops 2. Black Ops 2. Okay, not the most recent Black Ops. I want Black Ops. God dang it. I hate this laptop. All right. Yeah, I want to say it was still Black Ops 2 because it came out in 2012, so like 2 years later. Yeah, because I either that was Modern Warfare, one of the two. It was definitely a Call of Duty game, but I was still playing Call of Duty. I was playing Halo 4 still because Halo 5 didn't come out until 2015. And it wasn't until, the Taken King, like I think it was the summer. Yes, it was the summer. I was on summer break. My best friend's like, hey, you need to get back into Destiny. They got all these new updates. And so I did. I went back. I replayed everything. Vault of Glass, Crota's End. I played the Wolves. I played all the releases, everything, fighting Skull Ass for the first time. God, that was a bitch. Because he didn't tell me anything. He let me figure it out, and it was a bitch. But, yeah, that was, like, even though I did leave Destiny for about a year, I had a great time going back through and experiencing everything. Like, truly, when I say that, it was such a fun time going through that content. It was great. It was great, especially playing raids for the first time. It opened my eyes. I'm like, damn. Like, that's the thing about Destiny. Destiny does something that no other game can do, is a first-person raid. A first-person looter-shooter raid. And I fell in love with Destiny all over again. Because I did enjoy it. I was like, when I first played the beta, I fell in love with it. The PvP, everything. But then I did get bored because playing by myself, because there was, like, anyone who remembers, there really wasn't a lot to do at the launch of Destiny 1. There really wasn't. You had some nightfalls, I think, and exotic missions, which is funny. We'll go back to that in a minute, right? We'll go back to that. Before I stopped playing Destiny, the two things happened that I later found out when I came back were big moments. The first one is I'm not going to say I was the first, but I was definitely among the first people to ever get the Thorn exotic mission. It was very early on. I got the exotic Thorn quest to do that. And I remember something about it pissing me the fuck off. And so that's when I stopped playing Destiny. I got bored. My friend wouldn't help me do it. He's like, I don't want to play right now. Something like that. It was along the lines that pissed me off. I'm like, I don't want to waste my time doing this boring shit. Like, I got tired. I gave up. Whatever it was, I was almost done with that quest too. That's what's sad. After going back and looking up like what the quest steps, I was almost done. And finding out when I came back that Thorn, when it was first released, was broken. And I'm so pissed that I didn't get to experience that. What's even worse is that I was among the same people who made the same mistake when Xur showed his technically stupid ass and brought a stupid rocket launcher and a bunch of sick looking exotic armors, because stupid me was like, who gives a shit about a weapon that makes extra rockets? Who gives a fuck about that? This armor piece lets me do cool shit. And so that, as a hunter, I was playing, I wanted to do the cool shit. Like, oh, this gives me more abilities. Like, in your mind, you're like, more abilities equal, cool. It modifies my character. Why the fuck do I give about a fucking rocket? Because then exotics were rare, so you didn't really know much about them. And you're like, oh, exotic weapons were kind of a big deal back then. But again, no one really knew that until people got their hands on Galahord. That's right. I had enough to get it. And like many, I said, who the fuck needs this? And I know a lot of people chose because of like leveling. I don't know if that was true or not. I never cared about leveling. I was like, I just wanted the cool armor. I wanted the cool effects. You know, that's one of the things that happened with me is like, I just want the cool armor shit. It looked cool. Made my character look cool. Gave me cool ability. I don't remember. I don't even remember what armor piece it was. That's the sad part. It wasn't that relevant. Whatever it was, I know that it was, I want to say Warlock. What was it? What did Warlock have? It's going to make me mad. But I know they weren't relevant. If you're like, you're comparing, it's like comparing apples to a nuke. That's what it was. Whatever they were apples. Gallahorn was a nuke. And I found out later coming back that how, you know, I made a big F up. Granted, I didn't feel nearly as bad because by the time I got back, they had nerfed Gallahorn to the ground. And they had like level caps. If people didn't know, Destiny 1, every time they released like an expansion, they capped previous gear. So that was their form of sunsetting gears that you got to keep it and you could use it in like PvP. You could continue to play with it. But essentially it became pointless outside of Iron Banner. Iron Banner was the only place I think light level mattered, if I remember correctly. I'm trying to remember. And that, I think maybe Trials. I don't remember. It's been a minute. I remember doing Trials for the weapons, but not early Trials. I missed out on early Trials in the early gear. Oh man, there's so much. But I remember going through, and I didn't do it once. I remember before the Taken King came out, I stopped playing again. Again, I want to say it's because I started playing Advanced Warfare, which came out. I want to say, did it come out before the Taken King? It's like, I know I keep checking this and it's really annoying, but so many dates, there's a lot happening. It was a good time to be a gamer, by the way. So many different games coming out that I was enjoying, which is never a bad thing to have, is having variety. So September was the Taken King. Advanced Warfare. Was November. So yeah, so the Taken King came out before Advanced Warfare. There was a time that I did take a break after, you know, doing everything in Taken King, where I did spend like a good couple of months playing Advanced Warfare. We'll get to that in a minute. But I remember for some reason, I think it's because my friend sold his account, or sorry, not his account. He sold his console with his account on it still, and bought a PlayStation. I think we were on, no, Xbox. It was one of the other. I don't remember. I had Xbox. Yeah, it was PlayStation. That's what it was. Because I had the 360. I had always had the 360. And so he bought a PlayStation. And right back then there wasn't crossplay. There wasn't backwards compatible or anything like that. Like, you played on 360, you only had a 360 account. You played on PlayStation 4, you only got to play on PlayStation 4. So I save up, I buy a PlayStation 4, I start a brand new account, and we do it all over again. And did that all the way. Like, I played I built up multiple characters multiple times, different consoles, and that's the one I went into, Taken King. And let me tell you, Taken King is a special expansion. Like, Forsaken is probably the only thing that could ever beat out the Taken King, because not only did the Taken King have you know, revisit other places, it had full-on missions and full-on story with those unique missions. The exotic chase of the swords was phenomenal, introducing new, you know, strike-specific loots that people, like, no one knows the excitement of farming Nightfalls quite like farming Omnigul. Was that her name back then? Jesus, like, they Destiny 1. Yeah, Omnigul. That's been her name since, I forgot what her new name is. I forgot. It's the news wizard chick name that I keep forgetting. Omnigul was the shit. You don't know the time that the community spent farming Omnigul and killing themselves after destroying her, and not finishing the strike to get the pulse rifle, to get Omnigul's pulse rifle. And this was a PvP focused weapon, by the way. So everyone and their brother wanted this gun. It was so disgusting, meta destroying. And the only thing that ever replaced it was Clever Dragon and Rise of Iron. Like, Clever Dragon, man, talk about two iconic weapons, Omnigul and Clever Dragon. Then you also have Eyes of Luna. That was another PvP gun people really loved. You had the Arms Day weapons from the gunsmith, trying to get that luck in the chamber. Every Wednesday, I would be rolling to try to get a handgun or sniper rifle with, luck in the chamber, because that was truly like being able to, destroy your competition was so good. That running around with Last Word, man, Last Word, and even Hawk Moon, those get in that time, they actually shine. They were fun. I remember running around Last Word, having a great time on console. There was the first curse, which I'm gonna be honest, I never got into the first curse. Like, it was never my jam, so I don't really have much to say. I know people loved the Matador back then. I didn't really use that kind of shotgun, just the good times, right? You think of all the moments. We could keep going down memory lane, and I'm trying to think of all these different moments of things that we are excited for, that we chased for, and I spent hours doing. But I think the strike specific loot and even PvP loot that dropped, those were like the two things that people cared about the most. And that was, you were always excited for those moments. Like, Taken King did such a good job at refreshing vendors and making you care about the world, and care about the strikes, and care about the content. It was a good time. I also remember being, back then you could have Icebreaker, and I remember cheesing behind rocks to solo Nightfalls. Like, with Burns, Icebreaker was just beautiful. I forgot Invictus was the shotgun that also did the same thing. Never was that good. Maybe in PvP, but I never cared about Invictus. Icebreaker was the solo exotic. You go in, you just start camping like a bitch. And I also played Titan when I did it too, because I would put Bubble Boy down. I'm like, you can't touch me. I also love that interaction with Bubble and Touch of Malice. That was also a great time. I think they nerfed that. I'm pretty sure they nerfed that in at the end of the Taken King or somewhere in, because they didn't want people abusing Bubble like that, which kind of sucks. I don't remember the specifics, but that's what we used to do for Taken King. You would just put down a Bubble, destroy sisters with using Bubble. You just stay in there, let Touch of Malice destroy. It was like the one thing that allowed people to actually use that exotic, because outside of that, it was bad. The Touch of Malice was just bad, kind of like Necrochasm was just bad, period. It was cool and neat, it was just bad. Which is why Necrochasm's still bad and Touch of Malice is still bad too. Even with all the modifications, it's just not as exciting as it should be. We'll see if they'll change that. They'll make it, beefy this time around, knowing that Destiny 2's doors are closing. Maybe they'll actually give exotic raid weapons more love. We'll find out. Or not. I don't know. Yeah, we'll find out. But those are the kinds of moments that Destiny, that I feel like were highlight moments of the franchise. Moments where you got to load up in a raid or load up in a strike, and you were chatting with LFG. Man, I remember using LFG from my phone, especially on Xbox. You use the companion app to find people before Discord really popped off. You'd find people, you'd join them, and then they would, they'd find you, or you would find them and send them a message or an invite, and then they would add you. Those are the good times. Listening on Xbox or PlayStation headsets, you're just hearing people rage and scream through their cheap headsets. Nothing quite like that experience is hearing people just rage through their Dollar Tree headset. But what's funny is I remember distinctly I lived out in the country, and I live with my friend's family, and unfortunately we had 10 megs of internet speed. Yeah. Now, I was that guy. I did not give a shit. There were some days where I had the internet to myself, and there's some days I didn't. The days where other people were on it, I did not have 10 megs. I broke many a time the Taken King. I would give people literal heart attacks because I would be jumping on platforms and people would see me rubber banding up and down. They're like, he's falling. And sometimes it would cause people to just jump off because they thought I had already fallen. And so I'm like, no, I didn't. I'm not down, but I saw you fall down. I'm not down. Or there would be times where the floor just wouldn't be there for me and everyone would be on their play. I would jump up and I would just like, there's nothing there for me. And people will be so mad at me. I remember causing so many arguments, like so many people on the plates. I got so many people kicked. And I know it's my fault because it was probably my connection that borked the encounters. But I remember specifically the raid leader getting so mad at the people on the plates that there were many times where people would get kicked. Now, I also got kicked quite a bit too. Let's be honest. There were times where they're like, okay, if I was not a runner, they would kick me. Like, because my connection and stuff would sometimes also bork other people. But if I was and you got to realize, this is the thing. Back then, a lot of people did not want to be runners for Taken King. Like doing the whole running on the platforms. I don't know why, but on Xbox and even PlayStation, many people just did not want to do that job because they were afraid to fuck up. They were terrified to fuck up. They didn't want to be that guy that ruined the runs. So no one volunteered to do it. So I always did it knowing that I had shitty internet. And so people, like being the only runner, people knew. And if I had some success doing it, well, who you gonna fight against? Who you gonna fight against? I'm trying to think if I remember correctly. Because I'm wanting to say that back in Taken King, you got to choose who the runner was. I don't think the sisters. You could manipulate. I want to double check that, but I'm pretty sure King's Fall, Destiny 1. Did you get to choose the runners for the final boss? I'm pretty sure you did. Because I remember that you got to choose those roles. No, the game randomly shows. So what it was is that they would just die. That's what we did. Everyone would die before the encounter. No, that's not true. No. We would just keep resetting until I became the runner for the first run. That's what it was. Which I think that's kind of what happens with the first one, right? I'm trying to remember. It's been so long. It's been so long. I know there's guides to do it now. Either way, they chose me to be the runner. Damn, I'm going to have to go play some of these old raids. That's the problem playing Destiny 2 for so long. I don't think I'm going to remember how to do the original version because I'm going to think that they're... I'm going to think that they're the reboot version. Everything in Destiny 1 is going to be a reboot. Like, no, it's different. So that's going to be interesting to go back through Destiny 2 and experience that, or Destiny 1 and experience that. But essentially, I was the runner whenever the possibility came, whether people like gave me the role or I got to choose. I don't remember. But that's to keep my ass from being kicked from the team because my 10 meg internet was, it was a problem. It was a problem. Whoa. It was such a problem. Anyways, I don't feel bad. I know it was a real asshole thing, but I don't care. I got to play Destiny. I had a good time regardless. Laughed my ass off, and I would tell my best who would be in the other room on his console, and we'd be on the same team. Like, oh yeah, I totally borked us. It was me. It was me. And And the reason I say that is because, no, that's not true. It wasn't my friend because we'd be both sharing the same internet. What? I think did he move out? I think he moved out to his girlfriend's house. Yeah, so he had better internet than me. So I think that's about true. Man, there's so much that's happened that you try to backtrack and see exactly how things played out. So I still lived with his friend's parents because they were nice enough to let me go while I was working at Walmart and going to college. He moved to his girlfriend, I believe. And yeah, I was stuck with the awful internet. Anyway, just know that I was the problem. Yeah, I fully admit I was the problem. There is no hiding it. I accept my placement, my blame back then. I apologize to all the dudes who wrongly got kicked. The dudes that got yelled at, all the people that I gave, aneurysms to because they couldn't figure out why things were working. All the blame that Bungie got because they kept on blaming the servers and how shitty Bungie was. I apologize for all the framing that I did. I'm so sorry. Oh, man. Talk about the memories. Yeah, and then we fast forward to Rise of Iron. I've said the story many times, but I'm going to say it anyways. I remember this is when they did midnight releases for content. I'm kind of glad we don't do that anymore, but at the same time, I kind of do miss the midnight releases for Destiny. It wasn't until I had to be at work at 6, 7 o'clock or something like that. It was way late in the morning before they got the servers working. And I think it's funny enough to think because I think they had such a massive influx of players that their servers could not handle the release of Rise of Iron. It was a clusterfuck. I remember sitting in my chair, falling asleep. I had already dressed, my clothes to go to work, to Walmart. I'm sitting there, I just want to play, please. Please, I just want to play. And I remember playing the first mission, got my first exotic, which was the stupid LMG, the Nova. I forgot what it was called. I forgot what it was. It was the Suros gun. I forgot what it wasn't the Suros gun. I forgot what the LMG was. It was just really bad. Whatever the exotic machine gun that they brought with Rise of Iron, it was really bad. But I got that. I remember playing with that a little bit. And then I had to go to work. And I did not get any sleep because of that. And so I went to work drained. Luckily, it was a 3-4 hour shift. And so I asked them hey, can I leave early? They're there's nothing going on. It's a dead day. It was I think it was, it was Tuesday, right? Yeah, it was during, because I was at college too, right? I only had certain days that I work. And so I remember having to work that day. I didn't have classes. And so I remember hey, can I go? It's dead right now. Can I go? And you're yeah, we got it covered. And so I remember leaving early to come back and play. And I played Rise Iron the entire time. I remember being a little disappointed on how short the story was, but I thought how badass Siva was. Oh my God. And I remember wanting Siva weapons. I was so pissed that we didn't get Siva weapons. I mean, obviously it wasn't until the raid came out that you got Siva weapons, but I was so pissed. I want a Siva gun. Where the fuck are the Siva guns? But I had a great time. I enjoyed it. As the releases, man, I remember I didn't do day one. I don't remember. I never watched day ones, and I was never part of the Destiny community in that front, which is why I say this, by the way. Whenever I tell people to stop thinking that everyone's on Twitter or social media or YouTube, most people who are on consoles are not on social media. Most people don't look at guides, and most people aren't sitting there, looking at Twitter or whatever it was, Reddit. People aren't online habitually. So there's some people that have no idea what's going on in the world outside of playing on console. It's just, I was completely oblivious to a lot of things that were ongoing even up to, past Destiny 2. I think it wasn't until Forsaken that I started getting more involved, because I wanted to see everything, because I remember them. I think they did the community summit and they were releasing information, and so I started, I found out about it and started glued to the social media, like, what's going to happen now? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? But I generally, Destiny 1, I went completely blind. I never really interacted with social media. And honestly, sometimes that's the best way to play video games, is just don't go to social media. Don't be on social media. And I say this right now to people who also play Marathon. The worst thing you could do to a game that people actively hate, don't be on social media. Don't subject yourself to that. It's easy. It's easy to be completely oblivious to social media and still enjoy a game. It's very easy. But I remember that, Rise of Iron, going through blind, learning the ropes for Wrath of the Machines. Oh my God. Talk about, oh man. Just the theme and the loot, like, damn, I kind of wish I could go back in time and experience some of the excitement that was Rise of Iron. Going back and experiencing Wrath of the Machine again for the first time. I don't think I ever had the same experience and vibe and excitement for Wrath of the Machine as I've had for any other raid since. Like, just when you're fighting Atrax, is it Atrax? Damn it, I forgot his fucking name. Oh, it's gonna piss me. Axis. Is it Axis? Holy smokers. It's been so long since I played Wrath of the Machine. Axis. Yeah, Axis. That's right. Wrath of the Machine, Archon Prime Axis. Nothing's more iconic than the music that was playing. You're kicking the ass out of Axis. And I remember, there used to be multiple strategies to kick his ass. The last strategy that really, developed for that boss was swords. And that was a highlight moment, because swords really, they were strong, but they didn't really have a place at that time for, DPS. Like, you gotta think, Atheon, well, you couldn't really go up to him, or at least no one tried, I guess, to go up to him. King's Fall, you could fight the War Priest with bubbles, and people did try doing swords. The Ogre, you couldn't do. Sisters, you couldn't do. You couldn't do Oryx. Crota, you could use swords for Crota. The Wizard, you could do. What else? Like, outside of that, Templar, you couldn't do. I'm trying to think. There wasn't a lot in-game bosses to use a sword. And so having a actual, big recent boss, because remember, back then, all the old content was irrelevant because it was capped. So no one, at that time, there wasn't any in-game content that swords mattered to, except for this specific boss, where you're like, okay, sweet, let's do this. And you went through two different phases. I believe it was Dark Drinker that first got the attention, and then it was the it's the Blaze Sword. I forgot what it's called, man. I forgot what it's called. Oh, it's gonna kill me, but I know that that became the meta because the upward slash was quicker and did a lot of damage, so people would spam that. Like, what a good time, dude. Like, what a good time. And then Outbreak Prime, the puzzle that was so crazy. I remember doing that with randoms, and I remember that toward the end, we just kind of gave up and said, okay, we've tried doing everything ourselves. Pull up a data video. It was the first time I ever used a data video, was to do the Outbreak Prime puzzle at the end. Man, oh man. Now, I remember someone did something and messed up. So two of us got Prime unlocked while the other guy, because I remember us being at the Iron Temple, finishing up the mission. I'm trying to remember when you got it. I remember doing the puzzle, and one of us messed up, and they weren't able to get it, or they had to go and redo something. Outbreak Prime final step. I'm just curious. Outbreak Prime. Channeling corruption, unlocking, synchronizing the final Siva puzzle. What's for a team of exactly one hunter, one team. Yeah, that's right, because you need one hunter, one titan, and one warlock. Enter the connect nodes to hit the target value. You can immediately turn in the Shiro Forv in the Iron Temple. That's right. So one of us fucked up, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but I remember we had to be one of each subclass, and you turned into Shiro 4, and then you got Outbreak Prime. And man, it was fun. It was good. I think it was more of a PvP weapon back then. Remember back then the Siva Knights didn't stack like they do in Destiny 2. Plus they didn't have the catalyst that increases the damage and all that stuff. Like at that point, it was really good for PvP. It was really nasty, the Siva Knights. But I don't think a lot of people use them in PvE. At least I don't remember it having that big of a moment. But I do remember PvP. A lot of people loved it. It was really strong in PvP. People showed it off and everything. Good times. It was exciting. The armor was banging. Like the weapons were really cool. Like you had double perks. You had a perk. Then you had a perk that played off that perk, and you got the Siva, activation. It was a great time, and the Siva armor was also really sick. And then, fast forward. By the way, Rise Iron had some amazing strike revamps. Oh my god, those strikes were sick. Fighting a giant fallen with a ogre's eye as a beam weapon, that was terrifying. I remember cheesing the shit out of that strike. I remember there were two different ways, and the main one was there was a pipe. As a hunter, you could jump straight up into the pipes and hide, and you could slowly fight the fallen after weaken him and go through the different phases. But you could jump up into the pipes. Anyone remember that? I don't know if it was patched. I don't remember if it was, but I remember doing the Nightfall version for the burns. You would hunter hop into the pipe, like the debris of the building, and you would hang up there and shoot down. Oh my god. When you talk about some of the cheesiest shit, Destiny, I think, has any game beat when it comes to cheesy shit like that. Like no other community is ever going to beat the cheesy shit that the Destiny community has provided. The moments like that really, you just don't get anymore. Like, in games, but even Destiny has kind of fallen off on that. Like people will still try to find cheesy stuff, but I mean, look at Marathon. They've already found an exploit and people got pissed off about that. I know it's a PvP game versus PvE, but like the tone and just the ha laughs about it, people just don't like, they just don't like that stuff anymore. And it's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. But then we fast forward to Destiny 2. I'm taking a break. All right, sorry, I had to take a break. We're recording for an hour by myself. It actually is quite a bit to do a podcast by yourself. It's not something normal, especially I'm not sitting in my nice chair. This one's just a little stool. After an hour, my booty starts hurting. TMI, but there it is. Destiny 2, we talked a lot about Destiny 1, right? We all agree there's a lot of nostalgia, red tinted glasses, the whole jam, but we talked about, Halo early on in the transition. Like, one thing I didn't mention is that I was eager to go into Destiny 1 from Halo because Bungie had established themselves with me. They made great games. It was all about the fun. Destiny 1, was picking up its groove. And I think they ended Destiny 1 too soon. I do. I think Rise Iron was a little fast paced because they're working on Destiny 2 at the same time. However, with King's Fall and, if they weren't working on Destiny 2 at that time, I feel like they could have let Destiny 1 thrive a little bit longer before they made the jump to Destiny 2. But they did. And I wasn't really sad. Because remember, I had just, I missed a year of Destiny. I missed a year. You know, you got to stop to think. Destiny 1 came out in 2014. It lasted about 2 years before they made Destiny 2. So the life, blood of Destiny 1 wasn't that long. Like, people don't realize how short the life of Destiny 1 was. It could have been even better. That's the sad part. And Destiny 1's launch, the story was so all over the place. Like, it was a hot mess. Like, the original story, the base game, was a hot mess. Whereas Destiny 2, as much as people hated the launch, Destiny 2 story was very organized. It was very clear cut. It was done the way that it should have been. It was just murdered by the fact that everything else about the game was awful. That's why I keep saying I think if they brought back Red War, it would probably be 10 times better and enjoyed more than it was at the launch of Destiny 2. Destiny 2 launch. If I remember clearly, I took the day off for that. I remember taking the day off for the launch of Destiny 2. Talk about a hype moment. Oh my God. A brand new game that I was there for the launch of Destiny 1, but I also believe I had to work. So it wasn't like I took the day off and I spent all day on Destiny 1. I wasn't that connected as I was like Halo. I was like, I'm still playing it. And obviously I took a year off. So I missed half the life of Destiny 1. I made up for it, trust me, the amount of hours I constantly played on that game. And the fact that I did 2 different accounts. I did 3 characters on PlayStation or Xbox, then went to PlayStation. Like, I spent a religious amount of time with Destiny to catch up. Like, oh my God. But Destiny 2, I was there from the very beginning, and I've been here since the end, except for like a couple months, right? And whenever the first Warmind season came, we'll talk about that. That one kind of like, there was some bad blood in that season. So, we're talking about old Destiny 2. I have never been so disappointed in my life. Like, starting playing the mission, it was really good. And you're like, oh, damn, we got our ass kicked. But the immediate, shocker was the fact that, like, because you start with basic items, right? You play basic items and the perks are like preset. I'm like, nothing really kicked in until you came to the realization. Because remember, Destiny 1 versus Destiny 2. Destiny 1, you would have to upgrade your guns. You had to upgrade them, but then use material to unlock the different perks and the different barrels. And you could, like, it was very customizable, which I'm going to be honest, I prefer that version. Like, it was crafting before crafting existed. You got random rolls, but you could customize multiple unlock different perks on the gun. I think that was in having to invest into like farming out materials and leveling up the gun itself by using the gun. That was if you think about it, that was the original crafting. Because you had to craft the gun, essentially the perks. You leveled it up, you put materials to craft the perks, unlock the nodes, and that's how you did it. Same thing with subclasses. You had to level up your subclasses, unlock nodes, and I felt like it just had more investment, more like MMO aspects to the game versus here you just get everything. And I felt like perks back then also in Destiny 1 weren't broken. Like, there was a couple obviously broken ones, but there was very few damage perks. And if there were damage perks, either they weren't over the top or you had to really like build into them to get them to activate. For some reason, Bungie decided in Destiny 2 to ramp up. Like, that's the thing. Primary guns in Destiny 1 were just strong. They were good. They also had ammo, right? They were just strong. I remember doing Nightfalls, and you could use a primary to do boss DPS and all that stuff. Like, it wasn't the main way to do DPS, but you could do DPS. And you had to do DPS when you had no ammo. You'd use your primary. Nowadays, if you try to do anything with just a primary, unless it's like obviously meta weapon, like if you use like a Fatebringer, you're going to be shooting Nerf darts at bosses, unfortunately. And and I feel like it's the whole escalation of the damage perks. I think it was the biggest mistake that Bungie ever did was introduce more damage perks and escalate them so fast. And that was in response to Destiny being in the spot that it was, right? I remember being so disappointed to find out there were no random rolls in Destiny 2's launch. I remember doing public events, opening a chest and getting exotics to drop. I kid you not. It wasn't like within like maybe a month I got all the exotics unlocked. Outside of the ones that are locked behind different things, right? There wasn't any loot specific strike gear, not at all. There wasn't any at all. They introduced that later. If I remember correctly, yeah, they had to introduce that. I think in Curse of Osiris is when they introduced it. I'm trying to remember. It was really bad, right? I remember Savathun's eye or gaze or whatever it's called, the eye strike, which was a fun strike, by the way. I enjoyed that strike. You got the sniper rifle, and then there was the auto rifle. There was also, it's the DFA, the Bayonetta auto rifle, I forgot what it's called, and the sniper rifle, which when it came out was like the best sniper rifle people had ever used. Like at that moment, it was like top tier. Everyone wanted it. And the DFA was all right. It was all right. The auto rifle was probably the weakest out of the bunch. No one cared about it. But the sniper rifle was a must have when it came out in Destiny 2. But in general, the game came out in such a poor state. I remember even after when Leviathan came out, and I remember doing that. I didn't do day one. Again, I didn't actually realize day ones. This is the point, again, still not in social media. The most I did was like Facebook to keep track of some of my high school mates and whatnot. But I didn't do Twitter. I didn't do Reddit, or I don't know where else you would get information. Like even YouTube was like vague moments where I might look something up. I wasn't even on YouTube myself as a creating anything. I never did none of that. It wasn't until like later that Forsaken that really popped off. Actually, I know the real time that I started really getting onto like YouTube for Destiny was the Whisper Quest. That's what it was. Yep, that's when I really came back. Or I entered the social media space, was to try to figure out where it was at. But in the time whenever Destiny 2 first launched, we're not even at Curse of Osiris yet. I remember doing Leviathan. I liked the Leviathan. I thought it was pretty fun. It was an enjoyable raid. I hated, I'm going to say it, I hated Underbelly. I thought it was annoying and obnoxious and stupid. Because that's all everyone ever wanted to do, and you'd spend like an hour trying to figure out where the hell to go because people don't know what they're doing. I hated Underbelly. I thought it was awful design. I know I might be in the minority of that, but I just wanted, can we just do the encounters? Like, we have to do them all anyways. Can we just do them? And people always wanted to do, but I want to do this one first. And all you got was the same shit. They had different elements, though. Remember, back then, you got to have different elements on different guns. People used to hoard those until Bungie did a blanket nerf and removed elements, the random elements, and made everything preset. It used to be where you could have the same, you would have preset rolls on your guns, but you got to choose the element on the guns. So you could have the same gun, same perks, but all three different elements. You could have Arc, Solar, and Void, and you could just swap in and out and use your favorite gun for everything. And that was when you'd use for it was not burns, but I forgot what it's called. The rotating, element. I remember that. And so that was like the only reason to do raids, like Leviathan, was to try to get the different guns and the different types. So to be honest, most of the guns were fucking ass, except for like the pulse rifle, Inaugural's Address. I'll remember it because that one was like, everyone wanted that. Yeah, kill clip, which back then, kill clip was 50%. If I remember correctly, kill clip was 50% damage boost. So everyone, their fucking brother wanted that for PvP. Now I remember everyone had like 3 different elements of Inaugural's address. But after you did that, you collected everything, there was no reason to raid, which is what really killed the end game, is that there was no random rolls. And then Trials of the 9 came out. Man, talk about the biggest, like, I went flawless every single week that Trials the doors were open. Trials of the 9. Talk about the big, like, really cool, like, shaders and armor, weapons, or except the auto rifle when it came out. Everyone was using the auto rifles. And then I remember the time that, one of the rare times that Mida multi-tool was meta, and everyone would group up together and you would shoot from the back and use Mida. Oh my god, talk about some of the most boring shit you would ever play. Sometimes it didn't become who was the better shooter in Trials of 9. It became who had the most patience to wait before rushing to activate the bomb, because you had to activate the stupid countdown. And so it was more who's going to wait it out, who's going to wait to do it. Because often whoever got out of cover first was the first one to get shot and team killed. It was so bad, but it was so easy to like manipulate, and it wasn't based on skill-based matchmaking. It wasn't based on your, I don't think it was based on your Trials card. I think it was completely random. I could be wrong, but it was so easy to get flawless in Trials of the 9. It was also incredibly boring. It's probably the most boring PvP I'd ever play in my fucking life. No random rolls. Everyone had the same fucking guns, the same setup, doing the same strats. It was so boring. Oh my god, even rushing was pointless because you could use the auto rifle, once you got the Trials of the 9 auto rifle, you just started shredding. It was so bad, man. I do not miss that part of Destiny's history. It was just so fucking cancer. But I remember doing that, and then, Curse of Cyrus rolls up, and the weapons are sick. Some of the sick looking weapons, but the rolls on them were so fucking ass, bro. Man, I was so mad. You spent hours doing side missions to unlock the ability to craft or unlock these guns, and then they were just bad. None of them were good. They look cool, they look unique, and you're like, hell yeah, but they were fucking ass. And then the concept of having a public space where you couldn't use your Sparrow because it was so small. Like you were literally on an island and there was only one main public event. Oh my god, it was a cool public event, don't get me wrong. Iconic two tokens in the blue. 2 tokens of blue, guys, remember that? Oh, it was so hard to put a smile on while playing that. And even the Infinite Forest, it's funny, people like to rose tinted glasses and talk about how good the Infinite Forest was. No, Infinite Forest, the only time it was ever enjoyable was the Halloween event, when you got to push yourself and see how far you could go. That was the only time that the Infinite Forest was actually fun or somewhat enjoyable, because it was based on challenge. Whereas when you played Curse of Cyrus and you did anything for it, the Infinite Forest was nothing but fluff. It was there to pad the fact that there wasn't much in the game. That's why Curse of Cyrus is really bad. But when you look at how bad Edge of Fate was and how boring it was and how much fluff Matter Spark turned out to be, it makes the Infinite Forest look like a wet dream compared to it. Like, that's how bad that Destiny has gotten, is when how boring the Curse of Cyrus expansion was. Edge of Fate made it look like a hidden gem. But I remember doing that. That's also, I believe, when they introduced Grandmasters for the first time. Like, they did was it the Trials of Swords? I forgot what it was. You got the card every week, and they were trying to bring back interest in doing strikes. And you would have different modifiers that you could do, kind of like what they're doing now, to try to get as many points as possible. And the rewards were just awful, and no one enjoyed doing it. In fact, it was like the one and done, and then they removed it. It's something about swords. I forgot what the hell it was called. Destiny 2 Curse of Osiris, Swords, Nightfall. I'm trying to see what it was called. Pisses me off because it's gonna break. It's actually treating swords as a swords. Ah, damn, that's gonna be so annoying. What is it called? Five of Swords. That's what it's called. Is a challenge card acquired from Zur used to customize modifiers in your score multiplier in Legacy Prestige Nightfalls. That's what it was. Yeah. I remember that. That was something they introduced. I remember because I remember people doing Five of Swords. Like they tried so desperately to make Nightfalls relevant again after murdering them. That's when they introduced also like the Nightfalls specific loot. Which unfortunately was not good because the whole point of having Nightfall exclusive loot, and they never introduced Nightfall exclusive armor either, which was one of the highlights of Destiny 1, is they did like a Dark Souls vibe where you killed the boss and you got to wear their body parts as armor, which was so fucking badass. And then Destiny 2 is like, oh, we don't understand why you like this. And so we're going to just put a weapon in there that once you get it once, you never have to touch, just strike again. It's like, no, that was the point of farming for Omnigul's Grasp, is because you wanted that perfect god roll. But if everyone has the same roll, what's the fucking point of doing it more than once? Like, so that's kind of like something about Destiny 2. Bungie lost their minds. Whatever happened from Destiny 1, Destiny 2 was the downfall. They lost their fucking minds. They lost the sauce. Somewhere down the line, they lost the sauce in the transition to Destiny 2. But yeah, I remember that. Curse of Osiris, not very many fond memories. That it just, I have, there really wasn't that much fond memories. Warmind, at least, when we got Warmind, toward the end, it started, there were some Easter eggs, like collecting all the Warmind nodes was something to do. Again, the only thing that was a highlight from that, story, even killing Zol was disappointing because you're fighting this giant hive god. The first time we saw a hive worm, this mythical lore creature, and he dies like a bitch. It's just not even, we expect it to be a raid boss, and that's when people got disappointed that we got Argos. Yeah, I believe, no, we got Argos and Curse of Osiris. Was it the other asshole Spire of the Stars that we got? I think it was Spire of the Stars we got for Warmind. I don't remember. Yeah, I believe it was, which a lot of people hated that raid because it was so team focused. Like it was the LFG killer, which it's a shame they never brought it back. I feel like it would be really fun to go back and play that raid lair. Like it's such a shame they're not bringing that back. That encounter was really fun. But, at that time, raid lairs were awful because the loot was awful. They introduced like one new weapon. Yeah. Raid lairs from Curse of Osiris and Warmind, the raid lairs, they introduced one or maybe two new weapons, and they're set rolls. It was just awful. It made no sense why you would murder your end game like this. So as you could tell, like the game was stagnating really quick. End game was pointless. There was just like no point to give a rip about anything at all. The only thing about Warmind was the Ikelos, not SMG, the shotgun and the sniper. Box breathing before they nerfed it to hell was actually really good. And then Trench Barrel was also really, really good. It's all right now. It's more used for cheesy shit than anything right now. But back then, it was a highlight weapon. And everyone wanted those weapons. And they farmed, and people would keep doing that encounter because the drop rate was really low. So they introduced Chase back, but they did it not based on random rolls. They did it based on drop rate. So it was very rare, which did piss a lot of people off. It was also really hard. The enemies were hard to kill. But I still appreciate that they did something to try to make Chase, there was something to farm. There was some reason to play. There was a reason to try to have the best gear and setup and try to coordinate as a team. Like there was something. Unironically, at some points, outside of Spire of the Stars, like Argos was really cool too. But there were times where it felt like trying to get the Kilo shotgun was more important than doing a raid. And that I think that was a little backwards. A public event activity should never be more important than a raid, in my opinion. But they kind of fucked up on that point, in my opinion. They kind of fucked up. Then we fast forward to where Bungie, desperately trying to get people to play, bring excitement to. So we got Whisper of the Worm, this gem. And I remember before looking online, I randomly found this portal. And I never went into it because I didn't know what it was. And so I remember it disappearing because I was dicking around. Or no, I did find it. Okay, now I take that back. I did find it. I did go into it, but I was solo. And it's hard. It was hard. When you first did it, you didn't know what to do. You didn't realize there was a time limit. It's hard. Your first time doing it, it is a hard exotic mission to do blind. Especially in time. And I'm not talking about Destiny 2 version. Sorry, not the revamped Destiny 2 version, like the OG version, where your time was capped. It was not generous whatsoever. Like, you didn't get like an hour or so. You were like, what was it, 20 minutes or something? I don't remember. It was very low. But I remember, going through this and dying a lot and falling off. Like, what the fuck? I need people. And so I remember running it back with people as a team and beating it. And then when you got your hands on it, this was the shit. This was the weapon. The infinite power DPS sniper rifle. This was the nuts. This gun, you just aim, hit your headshots, and you never had to reload. It was so good. And I'm so sad that they nerfed it, and they had to nerf it. I get it. I think that it could be unnerfed now? Yes. I don't think it's good enough as it is right now that it would be a problem if it had infinite ammo, if you hit all your shots. Because there are some bosses it would really shine on, and there's others where you would have to, like, if you made it to where the perk did not activate on div bubbles, that wouldn't solve your problem. Because Divinity would give you perfect crits every time, but if you make it to where it has to be a legit crit, I think that would solve the problem. But I don't think Bungie would ever take the time to do that, and I don't think they would ever take the time to revert Whisper of the Worm, which I really wish they would. I wish they would revert the nerf just for like hey, play with whatever the fuck you want. This is your game, your sandbox. We're done. Here's all these. We're making everything broken the way it was. Have fucking fun, kids. Bring back the crafting. Please don't bring the crafting back. Don't bring it back. But yeah, Whisper Worm was a great time, and it was fun and exciting. And I remember doing, speed runs or trying to challenge myself to go solo. Like, those were the high, and especially the Easter egg of seeing Vault of Glass, because remember, Vault of Glass was not in Destiny 2. So being able to see like an Easter egg, that was the shit back then. Just getting those Easter eggs. Man. What we're continuing on to that Forsaken. Like, I'm not gonna spend all day. Like, I'm just gonna try to siphon through everything. Just my general experiences to where we were, to where we're going. Like, Forsaken. I spent so much time Forsaken. I'm gonna bundle this up to make it quick. Like, this was the one time where I watched a world's first race for the first time. It was Last Wish, and watching all these teams go at it for like 24 hours. I never participated until like later. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't participate until they found the Riven cheese, but I always wanted to do it legit. And luckily, when I did do it legit and learned it, no one else ever wanted to do it legit from and onward, which sucks. Everyone wanted to do cheese, which forever will be a thing that is a thing. And they'll never get rid of that cheese, unfortunately. And very few will do Riven legit. God, ugh. But Forsaken was iconic. I remember, I was so passionate about Destiny again. And again, I'm going through college this entire time. I'm going through college. I'm stressed out. I've got a lot of other things going on in my life, family, etc. I got a lot of stress, a lot of things that woe is me, right? I'm trying to be very vague because you don't care. Who cares about this? Is not about that bullshit. This isn't like my TED Talk, Dr. Phil style video. We're talking about video games, right? But just know that there's a lot of shit in the background. So Destiny is my passion. It is my attention, my escape. It's my world that I enjoy. I'm socializing. I'm hanging out with friends. I'm having some of the highlight times of my life. Forsaken just did everything right. Strikes, bang, PvP was so fun. With random roles introduced and being able to have, primaries in both slots or have specials in both slots and heavy weapons being changed back to what they should have been. It was such a glorious time, man. There's like when you talk about highlight, and even with the pinnacle weapon chases like Luna's Howl or Not Forgotten or Recluse, like that was later. Recluse and Mountaintop was later down the line, but those moments were just phenomenal. And like I said, I'm trying to cut through all the fluff because we could sit there and talk about all the Forsaken moments. But Forsaken just in general was a fantastic time, and going to the Dreaming City and then experiencing the weekly rotations and watching the Taken Blights was so cool. Like, cause we never really had that. We never saw a public, a destination change and evolve. And then the dungeon, the first ever dungeon that they ever did was Shattered Throne. And that alone was so special. Like, it was crazy. Like, what is a dungeon? What is this? Truly a special moment. And I'm hoping that they do justice with the revamp and they make the dungeon have its own specific weapons. I hope they do. I hope Shattered Throne gets love. And same thing with Pit of Heresy when we get there. Fast forward, we have, the forges. The forges, I would say I love Scourge of the Past. It was so fun. It's like a mini strike raid. It wasn't a raid lair, but it felt like a raid lair. Like speed racing, doing the maps, fighting the giant Goliath of a mech suit for the first time. Because remember, that was new. Is seeing something like that. It was a good time. It was such a good time. It was my first ever day one on my original account, which we'll talk about. That was my first ever day one with Scourge of the Past. I beat it day one with some randoms, and I was so happy. Oh man, I was so happy to get day one Scourge of the Past. Good times. Then we had like the Season of the Drifter, or season. It was an expansion, but you had the expansion of the Drifter. It was all right. Reckoning was fine. I like Gambit Prime. I thought it was really cool. I felt like they just needed to keep tweaking it to make it, especially the one round. I love that it was one round. I hated Prime being 3 rounds, and I still do. It needed to be one and done. Get in, make it crazy as possible, have different roles, and then be done with it. But yeah, Outbreak Prime was the shit. I love the roles. I love collecting the armor and upgrading them. And I felt like they could have done more. They could have also introduced new roles. They could have done so much to Gambit. We all know they could have. They kind of buried it. And because, let's be honest, Gambit kind of started murdering PvE and PvP weapons. Most people hated Gambit because of all the nerfs, because Bungie couldn't separate Gambit from everything else in the game. They had to nerf everything, so PvP felt it, and then PvP felt it because of stupid Gambit. But it is what it is, right? Then you got Crown of Sorrow. You got the Menagerie. I love it. I think the only problem I had with Crown of Sorrow when I played it was the entrance was too damn long. The starting point was too damn long. Did that flawless. Like I flawless all the original raids except Argos and Spire of Stars. Never touched that with a 9-foot fucking pole. But the Crown of Sorrow, Scourge of the Past, Leviathan, all flawless. And then Scourge was my first day one. Almost made day one. We got to the final boss, Crown of Sorrow, and just cut short. I just didn't have time. It wasn't a dedicated, it was just an LFG team. Things fell apart. It is what it is, right? Unfortunate. I hate that. We were so close to getting day one in Crown. But yeah, the most iconic thing about Menagerie was literally the cheese, the double chest cheese, or the infinite chest cheese. If you had, for the time that you had, you running back and forth, getting multiple chests again, that was the first time they introduced target farming, which I thought was good. You farmed the material, the different things, the materials, to then select exactly the build combination you wanted to get the weapon you wanted to farm. And then you got to choose the masterwork, which at that time was like, handling and all that stuff. You got to craft, essentially. You got to choose what you got. You got to target farm. I thought that was phenomenal, and I hate that they stopped doing that. It was a great way to make appease people to be able to get what you want. I thought that was probably the best we ever got for seasonal activities. It was Menagerie. Man, and then of course, we're talking about Crown of Sorrow. A highlight of Crown of Sorrow was literally Dado, being a couple seconds late and getting baited for first place. And by the way, that's how they stopped, notifying people that you won. That's when they stopped doing exotics dropping, and then they brought it back later for just anyone who beat it. But they used to notify people that you won, you got first place because you got the exotic to drop, the raid exotic. The whole team got it. And that was got to be the biggest bait. I've never seen Dado get so mad outside of, 2402. Outside of that, he was genuinely so upset. I don't think that will ever be something that he laughs about. I think I've never seen someone so fucking mad about that situation. And I felt so bad because that's a big fuck you. Like, how you let that happen? How, like, it was so bad. But moving in, we've got we got Shadowkeep. We've got, you got the separation. You've got the separation of Activision and Destiny, Bungie. I mean, and we all cheered, we all celebrated. Yeah, let's go. We did. Yeah, the evil is gone. And obviously the evil was not gone. Shadowkeep was what it was. I consumed Shadowkeep, Beyond Light, and all the season arrivals, the dungeons, all that I consumed like normal. There wasn't really any highlights worth mentioning. Just know that I was just throughout my time, I was dedicated, playing, consuming content, and that was kind of it, right? Then we get to when they start sunsetting content. That's a highlight moment. I never felt more betrayed in my life, that they would remove content that I liked, and I was so pissed because I was like, they're killing Destiny. I was still not doing YouTube at that time, but I was like, they're killing Destiny. They're killing Destiny. Then I think I started recording as I was doing my channel. I think I remember recording some. I remember live streaming with the Witch Queen. I remember that. I remember I live streamed my best friend. We did Legend, Witch Queen. And from there on, I did some bits of Destiny for the funs of it. Really didn't do reacts or anything like that like I do now. But I would just upload, Destiny playthroughs of like Witch Queen. I thought it was fantastic story. I enjoyed the experience that I got. I was very hopeful. Shadowkeep was bleh. Blood, the only thing going on for Beyond Light was Stasis, which that's when I started hating PvP because Stasis was so fucking annoying. I hated PvP. I was like, God, it's so fucking annoying. The Witch Queen felt like more things were getting more balanced. Granted, we lost a lot of shit. They sunset almost everyone's collections were pointless. It was just, except for PvP, right? It felt so bad. Like, Witch Queen would have been even cooler if the weapons were better. I remember I was participating in the cheesy exploit of going through, what was it? It was, well, I'm trying to forget what the other platform was. It was like Google something. God, I forgot what it was, but you could connect your account. And I remember doing the cheese to farm for the recluse knockoff, right? It was the closest thing that we could get for the recluse. It was a legendary SMG. It was the closest thing you could get. I think I could get frenzy on it, and that was about it. That was really good about it. You got frenzy. But I remember doing the cheese by going to the website on my computer, and then farm AFK, like it wasn't AFK farming. I would just put up some YouTube videos and watch, and we would go back and forth farming the chest over and over again. And you would just you unlock, this is where they included red borders, by the way. So I unlock all the red border weapons that you get from the world chest, but I also was farming for the SMG itself. And I got it. Like, I got all the red borders done that I needed from the world chest, and then I got the God Roll SMG, and that was it, right? That was like the highlight, was using some cheesy back-end exploit to try to get. I remember watching Glad do it, and so I copied what he was doing to do that too. That's when I actually kind of watched someone on stream, like Twitch, for the first time, and probably the last time is when I watched a lot of Glad back then. And that's also how I got into keto, was watching Glad and just learning from him. Also how I got into gamer energy drinks. That's pretty much what it was. Gamer G Fuel is what I did. I still do. I still have G Fuel, but I don't do it as much as I don't use it as much as I used to, or buy as much as I used to. But let's see. Fast forward. Lightfall was, where I essentially immediately started, shit talking Bungie. I started crying like, hey, you had the train going for, the Witch Queen. Why is Lightfall a catastrophe, a failure? And that's where I really started, on my channel, switching. I would do, content, like educational content and funny, like Fortnite, funny, like I did Among Us funny video stuff for kids. And then I started criticizing Bungie at the same time. And that's where the channel completely just diverged into reactionary content, criticism, reviews. Like, it wasn't, I think what was my very first review? I want to say it was, was it one of the seasons that I did? I know I never reviewed going into, I never reviewed Lightfall. I know I didn't review Final Shape, but I was going to. I want to say it was Season of Defiance or Season of the Deep. I know I did a review for Season of the Deep, I thought. I could be wrong. But I did some mini reviews on things. It wasn't as big as we were, very small, but that's kind of where the channel started from, was the Lightfall. That's when the fall started happening. That's when I started getting more vocal. They were killing the game that I was passionate about. People, I was interacting in the community. I was very heavily, positive. I was a Bungie bro. I'm like, Bungie, what are you doing? I was supporting you as you left through Activision. This is where the vibe and the mood and the everything changed. Lightfall became very indicative. It was like a flipping a switch. This is not the Bungie I've been supporting. Like, yeah, you kind of floundered. I gave you some, grace with Light, Beyond Light and, Shadowkeep, because you're on your own. I took face value for what you said. You did Witch Queen, was like, okay, we're stepping in the right direction. Seasons are kind of like, but not, there's some But then Lightfall was the biggest, like you got to remember, Lightfall's promotions and the way they talked about it was this big, massive thing. And it was such a gaslight, a lie. They deceived so many people. Even the promotional art showed weapons that aren't even in Lightfall. There are guns on the promotional art or even in the trailers that weren't even in the game at release. Even the hand cannon, they later had to release in a second season after people called them out on it and finally made it. Explaining, they had to use an entire season to explain the story of the Witness and the MacGuffin. What is the veil? The expansion doesn't tell you. And some of that content you can't even consume anymore. It's gone. They removed it. So this is part of the problem, right? They removed paid content, removing the base story because they wanted to make it, they had already started making things free to play, but they removed the paid content that you paid that went free to play. They removed Forsaken, which I don't believe was free to play until like the end where they let everyone start playing, which is funny. They let you farm and play as much as you want, and then all those guns became irrelevant. That's the crazy part to me. You could be upset and say, okay, it makes sense. It makes complete sense that they need to remove expansions. But the sunsetting of weapons makes zero sense. And they were going to enforce that, by the way. They were going to make it to where weapons were now going to be sunset, and they were going to enforce that. And they quickly changed that. Like, those are two different things. Sunsetting gear that you already had versus sunsetting, content, because they still do that. They still sunset content, or at least they did. They remove seasonal content, but they let you keep the guns. Well, why couldn't we do that back then? So it's just stuff like that that's just really shitty and really annoying. So fast forward, I'm starting to build my attention toward Bungie. Then, the first layoffs come, and that's when I start hitting Bungie really hard, and I start targeting. I keep making fun of Pete Parsons. I remember I had like 2-3 videos mocking Pete Parsons, calling out leadership. Like, I was doing my damnness. I was just so vocal, and people were like, "You're just being a hater." Yeah, blah, blah, blah. By the way, I wasn't that big back then. Like, I was like maybe under 1,000 subscribers or something like that. It wasn't that big, but I was still doing my part. Then Into the Light came, and I remember I had criticism for it because they were still doing time gating bullshit. And I said, stop time gating. We can all agree time gating has been the bane of Bungie's existence. Stop time gating. So that was my big criticism that I called them out on. And I will always call them out for time gating bullshit. But I glazed and I played that religiously. I was streaming it constantly. That's probably the most I ever streamed Destiny was Into the Light. Just playing it constantly, farming. Having the best time of my life with Destiny once again. Like, Into the Light was a snapshot into a time that we used to have. And I felt like, okay, I even said this bar for bar. We're walking in the right direction. We need to start running. And then the final shape came out. Okay. Final shape, it wasn't as great as I want it to be, but it was good. It was the best that we were ever going to get. And I'm okay with that. I'm accepting of that. At that time, I wanted more. Everything about the final shape was great. I did a lot of videos talking about it. That's really when I was definitely headfirst into Destiny 2. And then episode 1 rears its head. And that's, I'm already being very critical of Bungie. I was critical of like Season of the Wish. I was critical of all this other content, seasonal content that was just awful, half-baked trash. Story is awful. Everything about it, even the death of like Amanda Holiday in Defiance, I called out like so stupid that she stayed behind. We have immortal guardians that even if something blew up, as long as the ghost, flew away, they could go back and resurrect. Like, none of the story made any fucking sense. Even the Witness deciding to take hostages from Earth makes zero sense. Like, just so you know, I was very, very hyper aggressively critical of Bungie, more so than what I was now, because I was angry. Like, what are you doing? It was like the alarms are going off like, hey, am I the only one seeing what's going on here? Hey, hello, someone help. The house is on fire. And you're watching this house burn until Into the Light and Final Shape came out. And you're like, okay, maybe the house is being saved. Maybe we're okay. Everything's fine. I'm not in danger. We're not in danger. Then episode 1 rears its head and we're back to square one, where I am back to criticizing the shitty choices. We have stupid, abusive, lesbian robots. I don't understand why we're doing shitty stories on characters that were introduced from some side mission that we had to listen to on a communicator. Some random ass character no one gives a shit about that was randomly introduced. Is now one of the main villains, and she's not even dead at the end of episode 1, even though they said episode 1 was supposed to be its own conclusion, which it obviously wasn't. Episode 2, we got to see space fallen Jesus. You know, Aramis got a redemption for some reason. And then with episode I forgot what it's already called. It was episode 2. Just meh. We killed Thickrell. He was supposed to be like a vampire. Blah blah blah. It was very boring. Heresy at least was somewhat interesting because of, you know, Oryx and the Dreadnought. It was definitely nostalgia bait. It's still nostalgia bait, but it was definitely better of the 3 we got. But it was nostalgia bait with a story that went absolutely nowhere. And it definitely isn't going nowhere, knowing that the Ziva Wrath expansion that apparently they were shooting for was never greenlit by leadership. And then, oh man, trying to think, you know, Edge of Fate, and I don't need to explain myself for Edge of Fate and Renegades. We know that I've been very hypercritical doing reviews. Like everything's most recent. Like I am where I am today because I watched a company that I like. I was really, you know, a fan of kill itself. I went from fanboy to hater because I watched them kill themselves. And then I watched them kill a franchise that I fell in love with after they left another franchise. And then I had to watch a different studio kill that franchise that I grew up with and love. And it's like watching 2 different things die on you. Like you have a cat and a dog and they both get murdered. Like 2 dudes roll up and shoot your animals in front of you. Like that's what it feels like. But overall, it's not like I want Destiny to die. In fact, I did my damnness to be as vocal as possible to try to tell people stop listening to these shitty content creators that are gaslighting you, that are trying to hype you up and trying to make it sound like Bungie's doing you a favor. They're killing our game. And guess what? I was right. They killed our game and they're killing themselves. So I know this is a longer podcast than normal, but I hope you enjoyed it. You know, a little bit insight to me. I could have gotten more detail, but I tried to skim toward the end because most of it's more recent. If you've been around the channel long enough, you know some of what I've already talked about. I really wanted to kind of dive more into the backstory of how we started versus how we're ending, because we all know how it's ending. It's the present where we're at now. Yeah, I'm Mr. Gaming Counselor. Hit the like button, comment down below, comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next reaction replay podcast. And until next time, game out. Huzzah.